take these.
Now, a couple ways you can level a seam. Some people will use a chisel. This I wouldn't recommend because the problem is it gets really easy to run it down and accidentally dig into the side of the material, which makes it hard to take it out. And you don't really want to run it like that and take off the glue because you can pull the glue off down into the joint. So that's really not recommended, although some people will use it. Another way to use is a simple block plane, which you can run it right down. As you can see, that'll take it down.
Works pretty good.
Oh yeah, it'll take it down very quickly.
But actually, if it's not sharp, that could also damage the.
Correct. You need to be careful with this. And just to show it very quickly on the end. Once again, the problem you have to worry about is scraping the material on the side, and that just makes more sanding work. When we used to do this a long time ago, what we used to do is just take a grinder and knock these corners off to try to resist the digging.
Right.
So that's certainly an option. Another one, which we'll show on here, is a pneumatic leveler. This is made by Beaver Tool.
You do that so nicely.
Thank you very nice. This is a great tool. If you're starting from an end, you can run it from the deep side of the foot like this, so the blade is extended out over in the air. Fire it up.
Well, that's pretty quick.
It does a good job. It takes it right down to where there's really just a little bit of film left behind. If you have a high side of the sheet, it'll tend to knock that high side down a little bit. This is adjusted so close it's leaving just the film behind.
Now that wouldn't be used in the field because it's air.
Correct.
Okay.
It relies on air, but we do have a leveler that will take care of it with electricity.
Okay. This leveler here has been around for a long time. Actually, for leveling seams, it's a little bit overkill. What it was originally designed for was for taking off the excess material when you're doing a cove. The blade spins and will take off the excess seam material right here. So that's why it was designed like this. So when I say overkill, there's a lot of money that goes into manufacturing this with the fences and what have you. So to use it for just a seam leveler, if you're buying it for just that, is kind of overkill. This is a lot less expensive. Although other than building one on skis, this is the only one I know of that's electric. Another nice thing about this one is this one will take you up almost right to a wall line. All right. Now this one works exactly the same way, except I have to plug mine in. No dust control on this either. So we're just going to take this, turn it on. And that'll do off the seam very easily. And actually, that took that off perfectly. It's set just a hair too deep, but it's not even really too deep. So that's a nice one. Another nice thing about this particular tool is that with the way it's designed, if you're doing inlay work, you can easily work your way into an inlay and take off a large amount of material. Mm-hmm. All right?
So it actually has many applications.
Yes, it does.
More than perhaps just my Beaver seam leveler does.
Right.
So if you're going to only own one,
this might be the one to own.
That might be the one to have.
Yep.
Okay, that's great. Now the next thing we're going to do here is I'm going to take this down real quick. This is the second part of taking down a seam.
And I'm going to do mine with the Rotex.
You want to talk quickly about the paper you're using?
Yeah, I'm using, this is actually a brand new product, and I'm using 80 grit, which is definitely overkill for the seam, but I don't have a 120 or a 150. This is a new Yoast product. This one is a film back paper, and as you know, Ken, we've been selling the Yoast for probably 5 years now, and the only drawback that we have ever had with Yoast is customers complain that when you go to sand profiles with it, the sheet breaks up. With this new film back, it doesn't break up. You can just crunch it right up, and it's perfectly fine. So it has all the good points of Yoast plus it's got some good points of a film back paper.
Now you can also wet sand with this.
You can wet sand with this as well, and we are going to be carrying this product line for right now. We're going to be carrying it in like 100 to 150 to start, and then we'll start to bring it in the lower grits. Okay, so I'm going to be sanding with that with my Festool Rotex.
And I'm going to be using a product that we've carried for quite a few years. This is just simply Micron paper manufactured by 3M, which we sell an awful lot of this. This can also be used wet or dry.
That's correct.
So it's a great paper also. This is 100 micron, which...
This one actually can't. This is 366L.
Correct. This is the old paper, yes.
268L that we sell can be used wet or dry. 366 cannot. So I just don't want everybody to think that all Micron papers are wet and dry, because they're not. But the 268L product is what you should be using for solid surface, not 366.
Correct. And now this, I'm going to set this first on, as you're going to do yours.
Right.
We're going to set these both on grind mode, and we'll take these joints right down.
All right. Nope, I got to get my goggles on.
Got your safety goggles on? Okay, ready?
Oh, nope.
I need the head start.
Oh, go ahead. You need a head start anyway. So actually, both of these are ready.
And it's good. This is good to see, because see what the right here you can see I have a mark from the block plane. And we told you one of the problems you can run into with a block plane is if you tilt, the edge of the blade can cut the material. So that's actually a scar that typically I would have to put more effort into getting out.
And I've got a gouge here from when we were setting up the surface leveler.
That was yesterday?
That was yesterday, right?
Now you used 80 grit paper?
Yes,
and I used 180.
Right, and 80 grit really is way too...
Very aggressive.
Very aggressive, but it takes it off right away. Normally you'd be using a 120, 150.
Okay. Why don't you go up to your next grid? I'm going to just run over this real quick with this.
Actually, I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Micron papers for a couple of minutes.
Well, let's go ahead.
Between Micron and grit.
Okay, you want to talk about that while I sand a little bit
more?
No,
I was going to let you talk about it.
Okay, that's very good. I will talk about it.
Because you're done sanding anyway.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Micron paper is a little bit different than pea grit. Most people are familiar with pea grit. Pea grit.
Okay.
We're gonna obey. We're gonna be good.
We're going to be very good.
We're going to be good little boys.
If you guys have been watching the show the last few episodes, we've been very, very good about our comments.
Last one episode. Yes. Okay. But anyway, this is pea grit paper. I'm sorry, this isn't pea grit. This is Micron.
Right.
Pea grit is what most people are familiar with.
This is pea grit.
Typically 80 grit, and it goes 120, 100, 120, 150, 180, 220, etc.
Right.
Micron paper, I always thought was an odd duck because it went the reverse. Of course, 3M created a product that was unique in the marketplace, and by creating a new identification system, it made it unique. So Micron paper goes the reverse of pea grit. The larger numbers tend to be more coarse, and the smaller numbers, such as like 60-30, tend to be finer.
Right. Which
is the exact reverse of pea grit.
And what exactly is the difference between a Micron paper and a grit paper?
The big difference is how the media is graded.
Right.
Pea grit, typically, when you buy a pea grit paper, and let's say you bought 220, well, the preponderance of the grit is going to be 220. But also into that pad will be some 280, some 320, maybe some 400 and 500.
That's because smaller stuff slips through the sieves and ends up on the sheet. So it's kind of uneven.
Exactly.
Microscopically.
And even manufacturers, when you really corner them, will admit that there could be even some 180 on there.
Because of contamination.
Exactly. That can still happen. There are some papers that specifically address that problem in the market. Micron paper is one. Trizac is another paper. And we're going to discuss this some more after the break. But these papers are much more uniform. A 100 micron paper will be virtually all 100 micron.
All right. Now the Yoast doesn't have that problem. Well, it has the problem of different grits like any others, but it's got a foam back on it, so it pushes up in, so everything is sanding off level. And it works really well.
Yeah.
So after the break, we're going to come back and we're going